Hi, guys. This is the Work Your Money podcast with host Michelle Wong, and I have a great guest on today. He does hard money. His name is Ian Walsh. Hi, Ian. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Great. Awesome. So let's get started. Ian, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I got into real estate investing probably about 10 years ago. So my background's always been in investing, even though at this point, very much on the, I guess, considered the banking side, so the funding side. But ultimately, it is investing, not just banking. And I actually had started wholesaling. A lot of people start wholesaling and investing 10 years ago. Came out of school, didn't have any money, and figured that out. We built a very large wholesaling company, which then rolled into a property management company that we built for about 7 years, and had sold that to TCS Management here in Philadelphia. And along the way, we had been lending quite a bit of money, and that's today, the primary function of typically what I do. But I'm very versed in a bunch of different avenues of investing. So.
Awesome. So you basically dived into real estate from the beginning.
Yeah, I got out of school, read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and like a lot of people that start in this industry, I get started right there. But I started right out of, I was probably 22, something like that, 23 maybe, and just decided I was going to figure this thing out. I figured it could be done. I started with wholesaling. I think there was an excerpt in the book about wholesaling a property in Arizona and making $40,000 by selling the property or selling the paper. I didn't know what that was or how it made sense, but I figured it out, and I went from there.
Oh, okay. And Ian, I always ask this to all of the guests when it's regarding business and starting out in business. How was the process of getting into the real estate business? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Tell us a little bit more of that experience.
Yeah, so, in the beginning, you're figuring it out. A lot of people have not worked for themselves before. And, everybody thinks it's the dream. And some days it is, some days it isn't. But it's a different mentality. So really the hard part wasn't the real estate. It's pretty easy to figure out the logistics of how a wholesale deal works or something like that. So that's not really too hard. You can look that up in a book and learn it in a week. The difficult part, I'd say, or the transitional period for most people probably would be understanding, truly having the self-discipline on a daily basis to do everything you have to do. You can't wake up each day saying I work for myself, I'm going to start at noon, maybe today, tomorrow I'll do some marketing. Day after that, I'm going to go look at a few deals, maybe around 9. I mean, it's everyday self-discipline, more so than working on a clock for a boss. You've got to report to yourself. So that mental shift is probably the hardest part of it. Forget about the business or the real estate thing. Once you figure that part out, and then you consistently implement your daily routines in business with marketing and what you're doing, that's where people really start to click. Until then, most people just flounder or they'll bounce around to different methods of investing or look for different avenues, but it's really that consistency of being self-disciplined in your business model and then applying that skill set to whatever business you're in.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that people overall, they get so psyched up when they go to, certain seminars, and there are some experts and that are teaching this, and they have a tendency to make things look very easy. So the mentality is, I can do that. But they don't know all of the sacrifices, all of the time, energy, and effort you put into it, the day-to-day grind. And, you basically have to consistently go out there and be productive, take action. And sometimes for certain people, they get frustrated because they think that it's going to be a fast result, and it's not. It takes quite some time for you to get certain results, and it's just a process. And the other thing too is that it's difficult when you're your own business owner. You're an entrepreneur. You basically have to be thinking and finding solutions to the problem. And that's another factor that you have to take into consideration when you're in the process of becoming a business owner. You have to hold yourself accountable for a lot of things. You can't slack off because you are the one that is bringing in the income. So the mentality shifts very quickly after you see that you have to be productive to bring in the income yourself.
Sure. I mean, it's you eat what you kill. Especially when you start. You're usually a one man or one woman band, and for sure, you've got to have a serious grit. A lot of people talk. You gotta let people feel they have it, but until you really get out there and get it done, proper planning and the ability to never quit, it is in the face of all sorts of problems. It's not going to be easy. You're going to make mistakes. After you learn how to start your first business, though, and you successfully do it, it's much easier to start your second and third. You know what you're up against, but most people get frustrated and expect things to be the way it's been their whole life. But running a business or starting a business is different than anything most people have ever done. So you got to be prepared to. I mean, it takes an emotional toll. It takes a physical toll to some extent, and it doesn't have to. Some people do it better than others. Looking back, there's definitely things I wish I could have avoided, but that was building experience. And now, as I've started other companies, it's you avoid those mistakes. But I still make mistakes. I just know how to deal with them better and mentally and emotionally. And being prepared for all that, you really can't be until you get into it. And then once you do it, you got to see what you're made of. And some people do it, some people don't. I guess there's a reason that 95% of all businesses that start fail within 5 years or whatever that statistic is, but it's not really the business failing most of the time. It's usually the individual failing. So anybody can do it. It's also not something that anybody can't do. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I have no quit. And I learn from my mistakes and I apply them accordingly. So, or the results accordingly. So I think those things are very important. It's the mentality shift when building a business that once you get a hold of that, you can really get things going.
Yeah, I totally agree. I completely see where you're coming from. I say this numerous times with any guest that I have on the show, or even outside when I'm engaging in conversation with people in the public. One of the factors is that you have to be prepared to fail. Failure is the only way that you would be able to gain your experience. And also failure is to know what you did wrong, find the solution to it, and then keep moving, because you have to fail forward, or unless you just stay stagnant and you don't go anywhere. And a lot of the successful people say the same thing. If you are going to do this, you have to do it with everything that you have. You have to be prepared that not everything is going to go smoothly. You're going to make mistakes. And from those mistakes, you know what to do the next time. And, again, it's about failing, learning to fail and learning to fail gracefully and be able to take away something and learn from that, and then be able to apply it for the next deal or the next journey or the next collaboration that you have in place.
Yeah, a lot of people put a lot of like a badge of courage on the word fail. I think of being an entrepreneur or starting your own business, but I don't really look at failure. I don't think it's the proper word that people should be using. I'm not saying you, I'm saying in general. I see that word used a lot. You have to embrace failure, and to the extent that what's defining you do. Mm-hmm. But I don't believe that that's the correct word, because failure has such a negative connotation to it, when the reality is you're just learning what works and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. And people take it very personally. They tend to take it very personally, and myself included at times, that when something doesn't work, it really can get you down, and that's where you determine, that's where you learn how deep your scars are going to heal and how well you're going to be able to come back from that the next time. But when you start to embrace things that don't work as just something that didn't work, interpret it as a failure, mm-hmm. It just gives you one more idea, one more thing that you apply a lot of energy to. It was not the correct path, so you should be able to take that and understand that it's going to be something that you're not going to apply again. Energy in that direction. So it's more of a learning curve to what not to do, which then puts you closer to something as to what to do. So it's more of just trial and error, and you take all your experience prior and apply it to the next decision that's going to be made, and you do that over and over and over again. And as long as you're learning from your mistakes, the failures are really just, hey, let's try this. You got to know where to cut it off, or what it's going to be. But you can't halfway do it either. You have to make sure, as you mentioned earlier, that you are fully committed to your cause, and you have to mentally ramp yourself up to be, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm into, 110%, and then accept the fact if it doesn't work, that's okay. Move on. Learn to not do it again. So I don't really worry about failure. I think what people interpret it as or consider it, you just got to get over that. You have to want to succeed way more than you care about the end of each failure, but you have to learn from each failure, or else it'd be like Sisyphus pushing that ball up a hill over and over and over again. You keep getting it to the top and it falls back, and you don't learn from your mistakes. So as you learn from each mistake, you can build on that. But if you don't, which a lot of people tend to repeat the same mistakes and sometimes not even know it. I'm sure I do it to some extent in my daily life, but learning from those mistakes and then adjusting accordingly is extremely important, because that's really the definition of what truly experience is in business. If people say experience, it's not just time in the business. Time does not equate, in my opinion, to experience. It's learning from prior situations, adjusting, and then moving forward in a new direction and not making the same mistake twice, because that's the culmination of experience, and that's when somebody says they're experienced. And I find that, people say I've been in the business for 20 years, 30 years, and you realize they're in the same spot they were 15 years ago. And you say, what's happening? They're not learning from their mistakes. They're not building real experience. So experience and time are really two different things. And they're all built upon through what I guess we would define as failures, or just trying different paths and then adjusting and succeeding.
Yeah, I totally agree. You have to put in your time. The other thing too is that in this particular industry, it is a little bit difficult when you're trying to establish yourself, because you have to go in accordance to credibility. People will not go into doing joint ventures. Sometimes there's reservation, because if you're doing this for a first time, there's some mixed feelings there. And people that are seasoned, they look for people that have more credibility in order to do joint ventures and stuff like that. Was that like a factor for you, like when you got into the real estate industry, or was that something that just, it kind of like worked out?
So yeah, I guess, when you're new, and I was young, I was 22, and, you're in a world of people that are, much older typically. Honestly, it probably just had to do with the way I presented myself. I blind confidence in a lot of things, but I also came from a bit of an edge where I had worked for a company in my college years that it was a college painting company, and during that time you learn to run your own business. You deal with adults that are twice your age and people. A lot of it's just how you present yourself. So I learned very quickly how to deal with people that were paying me real money for real jobs, that even though I was at that time 18 or 19, I was either going to get smashed on and intimidated by it, or I was going to learn how to deal with people with, giving me thousands of dollars and resolving issues and so forth. So I kind of learned how to deal with people much older than me, and realized it was very much just mental. So when I get in the game, and then I can come to the same thing, the same mentality is taken into the industry when you're new, is that, you're probably a little bit self-conscious. There's a lot of people around you that know more than you. But I would say if you want to conquer that fear, or you want to get beyond that without, you can't necessarily force build the experience, but you can really learn your market, and take a job, or take whatever avenue you're taking in the industry you're taking it in. Maybe try something with a very low barrier to entry, which would be something like wholesaling or even property management. Very low barrier to entry to get in, to do it, and start it. So typically what you would look at in that capacity is, hey, I'm in it, I'm building experience immediately. Joint venturing is probably a little tricky to do out of the gates unless you have something more to bring to the table. So if you take something that has a low barrier to entry, you move into the market in that capacity, you will build experience with not a lot of cost, not a lot of risk usually. And as you build that experience, you build that confidence, and then you learn your market, which I think is ultimately the most important thing. I say learn your market in real estate, learn your market, whatever business you're in. Once you know your market better than anybody around you, no matter how old you are or anything about you, you're going to have a very good answer to anybody around you, no matter if they've done twice the amount of deals as you, you know your market better than them. You can have a conversation from a whole different level of confidence. So by entering a skill set that has a low barrier to entry, it'll allow you probably an avenue that's going to at least introduce you and gain experience in your market, learning your marketplace. And at that point, you can really have conversations and speak from a much more experienced perspective. And I don't think I would JV, though, out of the gates unless I had something really to offer that if somebody needed with me. That's a little tricky. That's probably a little bit tricky. It can be done. I've seen it done. But it's a higher barrier to entry into this industry.
Yeah, JVs are a little bit tricky. And sometimes I've seen that JVs can either work for you or can work against you, because it's really about clicking with the person, and that person sees the same, the same vision of what you're trying to accomplish in regards to, whatever it is that you're doing. If it's if you're going to be doing a wholesale deal, or if you're going to, partner up and do a fix and flip or a buy and hold. So, it really depends on that. And I've seen situations where, it works well, and sometimes it doesn't work well. And, I wanted to get your opinion on wholesale, because there is a lot of people that are getting into the whole wholesale business. And I know some people that are seasoned that are doing this and they're doing it well, but then there's some people that are in the industry doing quote unquote wholesale, but they're not doing things in accordance. So I wanted to take your opinion on the people that are going into the whole wholesale scene, and how do you feel about that overall? Or have you come across a few people that claim that they are experts or they have knowledge of wholesale and they really don't?
Yeah, sure. I see it in every avenue. I mean, the problem is, so wholesaling, I love wholesalers. I think they're very important for the industry. Wholesalers are really just investment-friendly realtors without a license, but it really, with some logistics and paperwork involved that are a little bit different, but it's really the same thing. They're moving the investment properties, they're moving the investment products. So I think it's a great place to start. I think you can learn a lot about your market. You can learn how to comp a deal. You can learn how to you'll meet investors from that when you have good deals. So you learn so much from wholesaling that I believe in every other avenue. You're probably not going to learn as much. If you're flipping houses and you come out of the gates flipping, takes a long time to build some kind of volume to do enough transactions to gain the experience. But wholesaling, you can do a lot of volume pretty quickly. And as far as people, in the Philadelphia market, one of my really good friends there's two of my really good, actually three, but they're probably the biggest wholesalers in the city. So they do hundreds of deals a year. Back in the day, in 2008, we did a ton of transactions as well. So. And there's a lot of value to wholesalers in the marketplace. But when you get to that level, you go from just being a wholesaler where you're kind of a one-man doing some deals to when you're doing hundreds of deals a year, you're running a business, and a very lucrative one, especially in this market. So a lot of the wholesalers that I know now that are at that higher echelon are really just polished businessmen, more so than defined as a wholesaler. But entering, the marketplace, I think it's great. It was the same thing back in 2008, 2009. There's always real estate cycles. As you see more and more people coming into wholesaling, typically what you're finding is you're getting closer to the top of the cycle because people are more attracted to what they see on TV. Let's flip this house. How do I get into real estate investing? Oh, great, I'm going to get into wholesaling because it seems like the safest bet because there's a least amount of risk. So it draws more and more people in, and when you're at the top of the cycle, typically you're going to have more new wholesalers than prior, and then people get washed out into the next cycle. So I have no problem with wholesalers. I would say the only thing that you've got to be careful of if you're not very experienced, as far as talking and telling somebody what something's worth, or telling you somebody, if you bump into somebody like me and you don't know what you're talking about, you're trying to pretend you are, it's extremely obvious, and you're probably not going to end up doing business with people that know what they're doing. So usually you just come in transparent. If you have a really good deal, nobody is going to care how much you know, because buyers will buy a really good deal. So that's the thing to consider, is just be honest, be transparent, and make sure when you come into wholesaling that, you are probably putting properties under contract at a very low risk, $500 or less deposit. You're also putting those properties under contract with people that, to buy their house, that are anticipating and making financial plans that are probably in not a great situation, that need that money. So you've got to deliver. So don't run around and put properties under contract. That typically is where this industry gets a bad name from, is because people that don't know what they're doing, they go out, put properties under contract, and somebody might lose their house, might be in foreclosure. So if you don't know what you're doing, team up with an experienced wholesaler to make sure that you don't put somebody in that position. Because granted, it's low risk to you. It's just extremely selfish to try to do that just to learn or gain experience and try to think you're going to make a buck. Because if you don't convert on that deal and you don't sell that deal, somebody else on the other end could be in a lot of financial or hardship or trouble, and that's not fair. So those are the things to consider, I think, in wholesaling. But all in all, absolutely, wholesaling is fantastic for the investment world. We're the recyclers of the real estate industry.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with that. And the reason why I was asking, I mean, I have great feedback with a handful of wholesalers that I know personally, but on the flip side, I've heard some horror stories as well from other people. So, I just wanted to get like your take on that. Overall, it's positive. It's good. But again, it's like you said, if you don't know what you're doing, own that you don't know what you're doing. And yes, get together with someone that can mentor you and can walk you through it. Because if you mess up, that goes out very quickly within the circle. And people don't realize that the real estate investment circle is very close-knit, very small. And even though you might be in, New York or Philly or whatever, everybody runs in the same circle. So people are going to know names. And the moment that you do something that is not to par, people are going to know. Just like if you're doing something positive, people are also going to know, and they're going to, come to you to do things. And that was, just like one of the factors. And yes, you have to learn. You have to learn the system, and you also have to go through taking action and also gaining the experience by going through and doing these transactions. And that's the only way that you would be able to overall just gain experience as a whole. So, Ian, you mentioned before that you did a few things in real estate, and then you got into hard money. Can you give us a kind of like a how like all of that transitioned into it, and also if you can also like tell us, like what was the process? Was it a strategic process, or it kind of fell into place due to like certain circumstances? Yeah, so hard money, a true hard money lender, which would be what we're considered, is really, it's still an investor first. So I'm heavily basing whether I'm going to fund a project and a deal based on the assets. So I'm not a bank. I'm not really underwriting the borrower so much as I'm underwriting the asset. So I have to know my investing first. Whereas if you go into a bank or something like that, they're typically going to underwrite the borrower and it's the formulas and so forth with us. Well, the true hard money lenders, it's asset driven. So what happens is somebody sends you the numbers of the deal. Here's the address. Here's how much you're going to pay for it. Here are the construction numbers. Within minutes, I can tell you if there's going to be a deal there. But the reason I can do that is because I know my market so well. I know how to comp properties so well. And so the transition into hard money, it's private money lending, is really, it wasn't hard, and so it was kind of natural. So I learned, I did hundreds and hundreds of wholesale deals, learned how to really evaluate my market. I knew my marketplace very well. I understood the numbers. I got into the market at a time in 2008. Historically, it was the craziest real estate time ever. So only people that were buying were cash buyers. So I learned to sell the cash
articulate my market at that time. And then it built into a property management company, so I got to see the numbers really work. Simultaneously, I had two silent partners in the management company that were building a hard money company side by side. So as they built that, we were building the management, and then we were also deploying capital for lending because we understood the marketplace. And then once we had sold our management company, we really became public with the money that we were deploying up here. And now, our company deploys maybe $40 million, $40 million a year into this space. So, but it wasn't, it was a very easy transition because it was kind of being built, done, and already all the skill sets were being developed along the way as it went. And because I'm a firm believer that, again, it comes back to if you start in wholesaling and you understand your market, if you want to become a flipper, you can become very, very good at it if you understand how to A, run a wholesaling business, and B, how to analyze deals when you have a really good deal. The path I just ended up choosing was hard money lending, which is for most people pretty boring because I don't really do anything. I just we move paper around. But I could have taken the other avenue of flipping. Maybe I enjoy flipping houses, what have you. I don't, but that's if you do, that's fine. But either way, the skill set is very similar. So the transition was very easy.
Very interesting. And Ian, you said that you only work in the Philadelphia market, correct?
So I work in the Philadelphia and South Jersey market. So Philadelphia and surrounding Buncombe County, Delco, Montgomery, we live within an hour of Philly and in eastern Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And then my business partners for lending, they work in Maryland, D.C., Baltimore, Northern Virginia. That's their cup of tea. So that's about our reach.
Oh, well, at least it's very close. And I want to ask you this. What is your opinion? What is your thought in regards to investing, for those people that are either starting to invest? What I mean by that is doing real estate transactions. Do you think that they should stay within their, backyard? Or do you think that they should invest in like other areas?
So my thoughts on that is you want to take the path of least resistance. Now I certainly know people that, invest all over the country and they seem to make it work. But I can tell you that is a much more difficult process if you don't know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So especially if you're starting, for sure, the easiest thing you can do is be within driving distance to mm-hmm. where you're going. And most people don't realize that there are more millionaires in every market within a stone's throw where you currently live, like anybody, that the saturation period of their farm area, because me going out to San Francisco doesn't mean I'm going to make more money from trying to invest in San Francisco. So everybody mm-hmm. thinks the grass is greener on the other side. So it's not. There's a people in every single market locally applying the same sorts of skill set right in your backyard mm-hmm. to become millionaires. So mm-hmm. that is not, I don't believe there's any advantage. There's only, in my opinion, a disadvantage to starting out by trying to invest quite far from where you are. Now, this is doing with your typical methods. So if you're doing like a turnkey model or something, and you go out of state, that's a little different. But mm-hmm. if you're wholesaling or you're flipping or what have you, or your project is something that you're hands-on with, mm-hmm. you really got to, I would think that you really want to stay local, and you'd be shocked at how many people right around you, I can tell you one of the very first deals I did, actually might have been the second deal I did. I was living in a condominium. I decided to do some basic marketing where I went around my condominium complex and said, hey, I'm a cash buyer. If you have a house that, if you want to sell your condominium, let me know. I took note cards and I stuck note cards on people's doors, got a bunch of phone calls from them, ended up doing the deal with the guy that literally across from my balcony at that time. So I could literally see this guy's place every day I went out my balcony. He called me up. I walked down the stairs, walked up the stairs, and made like $12,000 on a wholesale deal. So it was like, there's so much money sitting directly around you that there's no need to make the level that make it any more difficult on yourself. So if you learn your market, I always say learn your market and learn to market. Those those are the two biggest things, honestly. And do it in your own backyard. Do it where you could reach. And you don't think that you have to leave where you are because it's better somewhere else. The grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is the same color on both sides. You just have to decide what you're going to be doing, where you're going to be working, and focus heavily on your target farm area. And your farm area also is not as big as you think. It's very small. In fact, some of the richest people I know in this business operate out of like a 2 square mile radius, do all the business in that area, and they become the big fish in the small pond, so to say. So knowing your market is very important, and keeping it local, I would believe, would be the least amount of risk to be the most efficient at what you do.
Well, there you go, guys. Straight from the source. And I'm glad that you said that, because I've asked this question with a couple of other investors as well. And basically they say the same thing. You should stay within, the radius of your backyard, or at least driving distance where you can physically be at the property. And one of the things that I've seen sometimes is some of these, these experts, they go and again, like I've mentioned it numerous times before, and I'm not knocking them or anything like that. I know that they're trying to show people that you can get into this and do it. However, if someone is going into the industry and they're fairly new and they're trying to get familiar, it doesn't make any sense to go out of your element and try to do these transactions. It really doesn't make any sense. Or if you're not into the area or the state that you're in, at least go within a distance that you can physically get to the property, because you don't know what's going on with that property. And I've heard stories about, certain things that go on, and then they wind up, losing money, and the deal goes bad and all this other stuff. So yes, you have to definitely know your market, definitely be aware of what is going on in that particular market, be very, very knowledgeable of it, and also stay within that particular market that's closer to you. Now, I haven't...
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
So now I wanted to ask you another thing. You mentioned turnkey. What is your take on turnkey overall? Not just for someone that's starting out, but just someone that has been doing this for quite some time.
So, I have a bit of a bias towards this question because I am involved with a turnkey company, in terms of, being partnered on it. I can tell you that, there's ups and downs to it for sure. And the downs would be, you still have to do your research, but you do it differently. You've got to know the people operating the business that you're dealing with. So it's not, everything is not the same. Apples to apples across all turnkey companies are not the same. You're really working with a company and the people in that company to deliver the product, as opposed to, you still have to consider the asset you're buying. But if you have, for instance, a bad turnkey company, that they come in, they source a property for you, and they find a property, they sell it to you, they do bad construction, and then they have a bad management company, it's going to end up poorly. You're going to have a bad experience. But if you have a good turnkey company, the product should feel almost like a stock that is just, operating. So really, you really want to vet your turnkey companies to understand how much experience do the operators you're dealing with have in the business. The more understanding you have of your market, better always in any industry. And then, honestly, it really will boil down to the quality of the repairs, the renovations on the property, and the management company involved in managing it. Because a management company, even though everybody hates management, nobody wants to be a landlord, a good management company will make or break your investment without a doubt. So you could have a great property, great renovations, great tenant, and a bad management company will still screw it up for you. A good management company could take the opposite, a mediocre tenant, a mediocre property, and even mediocre renovations, and make it seamless and work. So in the event that you have a turnkey property that is a good tenant, good renovations, good property, and a good management company, it can be a very pleasant experience. So you're really looking at the operators first foremost of the people you're dealing with. Don't look at it as just, hey, I'm buying a house and it's going to run itself. That's not the case. It's the company that you're dealing with. So turnkey, it's a different style. It's for a different type of investor than the person typically that's coming in for sweat equity. It's just a different mentality. It's people that are more interested in just placing money and, having a property perform.
Well, that's a very valid point that you just mentioned. And again, I'm glad that you're giving insight on that. If you're going to go out and pursue doing a turnkey project, then the most important factor is knowing the people in the area that are handling it, the company itself, the reputation. So you have to do research on that. Basically, bottom line, in anything that you're doing in this industry, you have to do a lot of research, and you also have to see in accordance of the references from other people as well. Because sometimes you everything looks good on paper, but the other thing too is that you also have to see how like other people have dealt with individuals or companies as well, because that also takes into as a factor when you're doing these things and you're basically doing partnerships with them to do these deals.
Yeah, I believe at any time. Ultimately, what we're talking about, the whole thing boils down to anything in real estate transaction is risk versus reward, and how much money you're willing to risk, how much time, which the time is money. So, how much time are you willing to give up to risk at this moment that you've worked for your $100,000 in your bank account or whatever it may be, to put your money at risk? And if you consider all the factors and you do your research correctly, and you believe your risk is firmly reduced, and the output is, and the risk reward is very high, it's something you probably feel comfortable moving forward on. If you have a lot of questions, just remember you're risking the money that you just put out, and it's real money. They're risking the money you just earned, and it's real money and real dollars that will go away if you don't do the proper amount of research and understanding of what you're investing in, and that goes for any investment model. So, a lot of people back in '08, a lot of the average investing model right now is, or in general, is you give your money to a market manager, or somebody manages your money and puts it in stocks, and you get a 5% return. And people just think that's automatic, but the reality of the situation is you're risking real money that the market can go down at any given time. In 2008, you saw a 50% hit across the market, or 60% or 40% hit. So it's not just you're going to give somebody your money and you can turn away and set it and forget it. That's money you're putting at risk. So if you're going to be flipping, if you're going to be wholesaling, if you're running a business, you're going to be working in a turnkey model, whatever it may be, make sure you understand that you're taking your real dollars and putting them at risk, and how much you respect those dollars will come down to how much research you put into it. And just thinking that somebody's going to go out there, you could luck into meeting the right person who's going to invest your money or whatever, and you get fortunate enough that was the right person. You didn't do your research and you just gave the money. Most people out there don't know how to manage money. So what's going to happen for most people if they don't take the time to research what they're going to be putting their money in, they're putting their money at a much higher risk. They have a much higher chance of failing and therefore losing their money. So understanding where you're risking your money is very important, because anytime you're investing in anything, it is not a guarantee. There's always risk involved. And that's huge, no matter what the model you're determining to use is going to be. That should be your ultimate deciding factor. What is your risk tolerance for the money you're about to put up?
You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? You have to take into consideration how much you want to risk. And you're hearing it here from Ian. Marcus, my co-host Marcus just walked in, but he was listening to what you were saying. Ian, I have another question for you. Throughout your real estate investing business overall, what can you remember has been a pitfall, and what has been your highlight?
The first question, pitfall, is that what you said?
Yes.
So, I haven't had any pitfalls, so to say. You just make good decisions and bad decisions. Like, I haven't I had a pitfall, it means I guess I wouldn't come back for it. But if I had like things that my biggest learning moments, I guess maybe I would learn once it clicked to me to understand the consistency of marketing versus not marketing. That was a big moment for me. Was consistent marketing trumps everything, because once you understand the logistics of a deal and how to do it, lead flow becomes so important, and getting the phones to ring is really everything, because you could have the best business model, the best this, the best that, all lined up, but that phone is not ringing and you don't have clients, you don't have deals on either side, you really just have an idea. It's like that thing when you grow up and everybody's like, oh, I should invent this, I should invent that, I have all these $1 million inventions, and I'm sure you do, but you're not implementing them, you're not applying it, you're not doing anything to increase the chances of that happening. So marketing and being consistent, consistent being the key word, with that marketing is a huge part of business. In fact, it's probably, anybody would argue, the most important once you understand how you're running a business. So that moment, I guess, would be the most important, that realization, and then that implementation of that became a very, very, very important part of my life across all the businesses. Because, and then deliver, and then doing, this wasn't something that I always do this in general, but when I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I do it. So being able to do that on a personal level, and then doing that at a business level, and then doing that at a macro level, by having the business do the same thing for clients and so forth, becomes very important, because that is the consistency that the clients deserve, or the people you're dealing with deserve, which ultimately emanates from who you are to yourself on a day-to-day basis. So that follow-through, that consistency, and that marketing are probably the most pivotal takeaways that I could say in my business career that were very important to understand and learn.
Okay. And Ian, in regards to, like reading books and stuff like that, is there any particular books that you are reading now, or you can recommend, or, reading overall, that has given you an impact?
I'll be honest, I don't really read many books. I don't know if I should or shouldn't. I've definitely listened to a good bit of audiobooks. Definitely has its takeaways, but I think a lot of my career, my learning curve, has been honestly through what I believe is the future of all education, and it'll be the future of it in general, which was, this is going to sound crazy, but it's online message boards. Mm-hmm. So what I've found, or what I've thought about over the past 15 years, anything I've succeeded in terms of learning a business, whether it was real estate, wholesaling, trading, so forth, those skill sets were derived from basically like an active learning. So instead of reading like a book, which would be like a dead book to me, or one perspective book, when you're engaged in message boards or forums and so forth online, whether it's, for me, it was when it was wholesaling or it was trading, the people you get to meet are the same caliber people that can write those books that most people read, or take a long time to read and take that one perspective from, and then you get to interact with those people. So I believe it's the future of learning, because you can instantly engage top minds in the world and have an engaging back and forth learning experience via message boards. I don't know if it's message boards per se in the future, but it'll be some sort of instant engagement with top minds in the world. So very quickly, and it's a skill set you have to learn, but if you learn you got to learn who the right people and the wrong people are, because you have internet, warrior people that don't know what they're talking about, that get stand up on a podium on, say, a message board or what have you, and they go ahead and will put information out there that is not valid, but you don't know any different. So as you learn that filtering process, and you learn to meet the right people, you get yourself into a position where then, as you bump into the people that do engage with you on those message boards, you can cut learning curves and get information that is so high level that you have to go to universities maybe to get them and look into it. You have to do a lot of things that you couldn't do without technology to get that information. So books, not as much for me. I definitely read some, but that would be ultimately where I've done thousands and thousands of hours of reading on by tracing down those top, trying to find those top minds in those industries.
That's interesting. I love that idea. And that gives you kind of, a more personable it's a personable avenue between all of the people that are involved in all of this. It gives an interaction, and I like that. And
Sure.
yes, books are good. And also books, I wouldn't say books are bad. Books are good overall to, learn things and all of that. But I think one of the other factors is that you have to implement whatever it is that you are learning through a book or an audiobook or whatever, and implement it into what you're doing specifically. So if it's real estate or if it's another industry, another business, you have to implement that, because theory is great on paper, but it's not when you're doing it in real life. And that's the only way that you can take away getting experiences and really learning from that, is by being more hands-on, going out and doing it, as to just reading and not going anywhere with that information.
Sure, I would agree. A lot of people get stuck in with that paralysis analysis phase, because they're in a company. We're groomed our whole lives in a classroom to sit, learn, and then take a test. Sit, learn, take a test. So people are constantly in a mindset of learning from somebody out there preaching back to them, and then they get comfortable in the phase of research and not taking real action and taking real risk, because at some point you have to take the knowledge you have and take a risk, whether it's $1 or $1 million. You're taking a risk with the knowledge that you put together. So unfortunately, we're bred in society to not take risks and to sit in a classroom, and some people get stuck there because it's their comfort zone. So breaking out of their own comfort zone is very important. I see that a lot in real estate investing. People have been setting their LLC up for 3 years and finding their power team for 3 years, but they're just ultimately not looking in the mirror saying, I'm afraid to take a chance. I'm afraid to, do I know enough? I'm more comfortable here researching, and I feel like I'm accomplishing something. But in real estate, like, the only thing we're all after is money. And if you're not clear on that, you're not in the right industry, or you're just out here to tell somebody you're in real estate. So there's nothing more important than that. You're not going to get to accumulate that money by staying in a research phase for 10 years. You have to, to make money, you're going to have to take some risks. Albeit you want to make that risk extremely low, but you're going to have to at some point.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And we talk about this all the time on the show. And again, I'm glad that you're giving us a lot of your perspective, your feedback on it. Various people that are successful in real estate, they all say the same thing. You have to take action. You learn from your mistakes. That's one factor. But you have to go out and you have to do it. That's the only way that you would know if it will work for you. And if it doesn't, then you move on to something else, or you find another option within what you're doing in the industry. And it's not just real estate, it's in business overall. I think that's more the factor, that people are afraid to go out and take the action. I know I have really good friends that I basically had to not distance myself, but more kind of keep them at arm's length, because all I hear is, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And they're constantly reading this and following up on that. Did you hear this? And did you hear that? And they analyze, excuse my French, they analyze shit to death, but they don't do anything. And then it's like, I can't hear you go through this whole, song and dance every time that I, have a conversation with you. Either you pull the trigger and you do it, or you don't do it at all and find something else to do. But you won't know until you go out and do it. If you don't, succeed the first time, that's okay. It's, not everybody's going to luck out the first time, but you have to stick by it, and you're going to have to, you have to put your dedication to it. If you want it bad enough and you're hungry for it, then, you're going to keep continuously doing until you get it right. And that's, that's the overall thing that I think it separates the average person from the person that is an entrepreneur. And again, there's nothing wrong with being average. There's nothing wrong with, just doing the day-to-day routine, getting a paycheck to paycheck. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not, knocking on anybody. But if you want to get out of that, and you want to be able to have a little bit more freedom to be able to do other things, then you have to know what the consequences are. You're going to have to know what the risk is. You're going to have to know that you have to really put in all of that time and effort to establish that and be able to get where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true. I mean, when you get to that phase, if somebody's been researching or analyzing for years or long periods of time, it's really more of a personal question they have to ask themselves. And I'm aware of that. When I'm talking to them, it's just, hey, I get it. But the reason they're not succeeding is because of something they're afraid of to take action. It's not in their personality, whatever it is, and they get comfortable. So until they take that step, they're going to be where they are. And that's up to them. But at some point, they have to look in the mirror and say, well, what's stopping me, and how bad do I want it? Do I want to make it more than I don't? On the other hand, though, you have people that are extremely action-oriented to a dangerous level, and they'll take their money and they just want to get it and play, and they want to say they do deals, and they want to say they, what have you, are in the game, which is the opposite of the person who won't take action. And that is also, I'd say one is more dangerous than the other, because you can get people, when you're putting more money in play doing deals, there's other people involved. But at the same time, you need to, on both sides, need to assess risk, assess what they're comfortable with, and then decide how much information they have and they're willing to take action on it. Because there's two sides to that type of. There's one person that will never act. There's one person that acts too fast. Ultimately, it comes down to how much they respect money and what they're willing to risk to get it. So to achieve, to get more of it. So that's what I would say about that.
Yeah. So Ian, I wanted to ask you, if you had to sum up in a couple words, what is the biggest thing that motivates you in business?
My biggest motivator is money, for sure. For sure. If you ask me the question, how much money do you want? I'd say all of it. So there's no other function of what. Now there's secondary motivation, for sure, which is I love making the people around, seeing the people around me that work for me or have engaged with us in business succeed. There's a lot of collateral things that are very, very satisfying that come with making money and producing money. But that's, ultimately that is the core function. That is the driving factor of what we do day in and day out in this business. And then the nice thing is the positive benefits in the lives of the people that eat from that money. It's greatly amplified by the more money that we're able to take in. So that's what motivates me.
Okay, I like your honesty.
Yeah, no, and there's nothing wrong about money being a factor. I think money is a factor for mostly all of us. If people say no, then they're not being completely honest. Money is the driving force for all of us, the motivational cause of why we do what we do. And yes, Ian.
In business, yeah. In business, if it's not, you don't tell yourself it is, and you want to tell yourself it's not. You have a hobby, and that's not what you want. If you're in business, money's got to be your driving force.
Yes, 100%. That I am totally on board. 100% agree with you. That is the reason why the reason why we do all of this in business is for the money factor. However, I also agree with what you just said. Any business that you're in is, overall, and especially real estate, the factor is the positive thing that you're doing overall is that this is a people business. You're engaging with people all the time. Without it, you're not going to get anywhere with your business. And the other factor too is that you're helping people out in situations that they're in. Whether if it's an owner that's having, financial distress, or someone that is looking to go in and take over the property and try to fix it up and then sell it to someone else, or whatever the other scenarios are. But overall, you're helping other people in certain circumstances. So whether if it's someone that is dealing with financial hardship, or on the other side is that the people that are working for you or with you, these are all the elements that it's a factor of just helping everybody out overall and still making the money.
I would phrase it a little different, but I think the end goal of what we are both saying is very similar.
Mm-hmm. So if you were 16, 17 years out, doing it all over again, what advice would you give to yourself?
16 or 17, man, I would definitely chase the money, but in a different way. 16 or 17, I would say learn. If I were to get into real estate or business, I'd say learn your market and learn how to market. If I could have learned that at the age of 16 and 17, as well as I know it today, you shave just years and years. I mean, you're finding deals all the time, and learn how to market and learn your market. And I would have learned that instead of doing whatever I was doing at 16 or 17. That's for sure.
Great.
So Ian, very quickly, two things. Is there any particular projects or anything that you want to share that it's coming up with the public or listeners?
Nothing. I mean, we've got a couple of really good companies in Center City that in the Philadelphia market that I'm proud of, and I'm proud of having the partners that I have in them. Grant Gendier and Ben Holler and Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. So all those guys, deserve more credit than I do in doing what we've accomplished so far. And there's things in the horizon like ETS investments and so forth that are exciting. But day to day, I would just say I just enjoy being around the people I'm with. I'm blessed to have their minds and their talent and who they are with their transparency of just being good human beings. So I don't think there's anything too exciting on the horizon other than, I can just be thankful for that.
Okay. And my other question is, for all our listeners out there, where can they find you?
They can email me directly. It's my first name, IAN, at hardmoneybankers with an S, so Ian at hardmoneybankers.com, or just give me a call, 215-839-3271.
Okay. And Marcus, where can everyone find us?
Everyone, you can find us at www.workyourmoney.net on the web. You can also find us at workyourmoneypodcast@gmail.com. If you want to send us an email, have any questions you'd like us to forward to Ian, or if you guys have any questions regarding hard money, go ahead and send us an email or visit us on the web.
And also, guys, you can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. You can also get the audio on YouTube, and that all would be under Work Your Money Podcast. Anything else you want to share, Marcus?
No. Thank you so much for joining us, Ian. We really appreciate your candidness and your honesty. It was a very good outtake that you were talking about other ways of learning. I think that's important. So thanks for sharing.
Ian, thank you so.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yes, thank you, Ian, so much for being on the show. Guys, go check out Ian Walsh. He has been very candid, very honest, and very real in regards to real estate investing overall. And guys, until the next time, this is the Work Your Money Podcast. Have a great evening. Bye.
Take care, everybody.